Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Black Womaning in Corporate America. I'm your host, Nicole S. Palmer. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your support. Just a really quick ask. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on Spotify or wherever you grab your podcast, please go ahead and rate this podcast. Your support means the world and helps to get the word out. So, takes you less than 30 seconds. Just go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and hit the subscribe. Go ahead and hit that share. Or go ahead and rate the podcast. Currently, I'm at a 5-star rating on Spotify. So go me. So anyway, welcome back to another episode. Last we spoke, I kind of left y'all on a little bit of a cliffhanger. And it wasn't because I was trying to rope y'all in and come back this Saturday. Or maybe I was, and I'm just a marketing genius. We'll never know. But in all seriousness, I wanted to revisit what I started telling y'all about last week, which was related to how did I find myself terminated from a contract a week after I spoke to my supervisor. So here's the tea. First and foremost, let me give you the background. And the background story is this. I'd been working at this particular assignment as a consultant for, I would say, about 9 or so months, give or take, maybe a little bit less, if I'm doing the math right. Give or take, I think it was about 9 months. So the contract was going great. I was getting along with everyone. I pretty much tried to keep to myself ever since my big exodus from my last corporate job. And so like I said, I just try to keep to myself, get my work done, keep my nose clean. But I'm still pretty, all things considered, engaging with the folks around me. I had put the system together for my supervisor and their direct reports, and things were going pretty well. A little bit, I would say, towards the tail end, maybe the last month or two that I was there, we had a new person join. And I'll be honest, I was pretty excited because this is not going to sound strange to you at all. If you're a Black woman in corporate America, typically you're one of the few, if not the only. And it was a similar situation. So I was actually excited to see a fellow sister working in the same vicinity, and we would be working together. And we had an initial conversation. She actually scheduled some time to meet with me because we were going to be working together. And I was really excited. And, we were talking about how we could collaborate. And I thought, man, this is going to be great, of course, because I'm like, hey, safety in numbers. And so that happened, and we moved on, and, we started working together. And she was new, so, I get that there was going to be a learning curve, but I noticed that every time that she would put in a request, because that's the type of dynamic that we had, and I had been, as I mentioned, I was already working there for a minute, and so there was a certain process to do things, as there typically is any place you work. And so because she wasn't as familiar with the process, she would ask me to do something that was outside the process. And I'm not one to put you on blast. Hey, we have a conversation, you asked me to work on something. And if I'm having a one-on-one with you, I'm going to say, well, actually, instead of A, it should be B, right? And I'm thinking no big deal, but apparently it was a big deal. And even though it was just a one-on-one conversation, she felt this need to pull other people into the conversation, and then I guess called herself checking me somehow. And it took me a couple of instances for me to realize that this was just her trying to establish her territory, so to speak. And that definitely took me aback. And it was interesting because every time that she would call herself putting me on blast, she was actually wrong. And I 100% believe what Angel Lakita Moore says, wherever you pitch the tent, that's where we're going to have the circus. I'm all about that. So if you want to see a bunch of people and be loud and wrong as two left feet. Let's do it. And so I would reply back, and she would end up being embarrassed because she was wrong. And so this went on for a little bit, and then it went from what I thought was going to be a pretty productive working relationship to resentment and just a lot of conflict and discord. And then I realized, and not that I realized, then I remembered, I guess is really what it is, that saying that they say that not all skin folk are kinfolk. And I very much saw that. And at the time, I didn't realize that she felt like she had to prove herself because she was like the newer kid on the block. And I guess she felt like I was an easy target because I was Black. And that's a whole other dynamic we can talk about another day. We're not, if you don't agree with me, that's okay. We'll agree to disagree. But it definitely felt that she saw me as low-hanging fruit. If she makes issue with me, it's not really going to have any blowback because I'm just another Black girl, right? And went on for a little bit, and then I realized we do not have a good working relationship because it was just getting to be too contentious. She would ask me to do things that were outside the scope of my role, and it just got out of hand. So long story short, we ended up, actually, funny story enough, I thought I was handling the situation on my own. And at some point it was brought to my supervisor through the grapevine, let's say. And she asked me about it, and I thought, I kind of downplayed it because, again, I know that I was the one I was the external party. This person was part of the company, so I wasn't really trying to make any waves. And so I just downplayed it, said, I didn't think it was that big a deal, but, let me tell you what really went down. Of course, I had my receipts, so I forwarded all of said receipts because we stay with the receipts. If you know, you know. And as far as I was concerned, that was the end of it. And then we had another instance come up that just was really, really out of hand. And so I decided to go to my supervisor and say, I think it would be a good idea if maybe this individual gets reassigned to someone else, like someone that was doing my role, but in the same group. You can have multiple of one thing. And I just recommended that, and I just thought we just didn't have a very productive working relationship. And I've tried, and I've told her all the things that I tried, and she agreed. And I thought, well, great. And then what had happened was that at some point, and this is what I mean when I say that sometimes, as a very direct and very secure in who I am Black woman, sometimes my mouth will write a check that my behind cannot cash. And by sometimes, I mean a lot of times. In the past. Not no more, I've been delivered. But so this was definitely one of those situations where I thought I was in a good place. We had agreed that this was not productive, so they were going to be reassigned to someone. Well, apparently the other person started having some challenges with this person, and they didn't want to keep them. And so at some point, they decided, well, this is not going to work because this person didn't have the bandwidth. Mind you, I was doing, as per usual with most of us, double the amount of work that this person was doing, if not triple. And so then I was told, well, we're going to have to reassign them back. But they remixed it in a way that I had never encountered before, where they said, well, we just need to change your job description because this will justify you taking this on. And I thought that was interesting. And at first I was kind of going back and forth about it, but then I was like, okay, no problem. And so sometimes you just got to pick and choose your battles. So I just kind of let it be as far as I was concerned. Next thing I know, I have another meeting, and this time it's with my supervisor in HR. And I thought, well, that's different. And so we're having this conversation, and she tells me that they're going to change my job description, and as a result, then this individual is going to be reassigned to me because they're going to expand my roles and responsibilities. And so my question was, okay, so is my salary going to increase since my responsibilities are increasing? No, this is what it should have been from the jump. So I'm sitting there like, okay, that's interesting, but let's go with it. And I was in the moment, I want to be very upfront about what was taking place, because I got the sense, just based on what was happening, that HR didn't really have all of the background and the context. And so I just asked, I said, how is this going to resolve the concerns that I brought to you regarding the dynamics between me and this person? And every time I asked a question, they both just looked at me. And there was a point where I'd said, I don't see how this will resolve the issue, when I had very clear concerns, and I actually showed you my receipts as to what was taking place. And y'all, the HR person just kind of smirked, like, and it was just such a callous look on her face. And I guess either she didn't realize she was doing it or didn't really very well care, because at the time I didn't realize it was happening. I didn't realize till after the fact. But essentially what was happening, this was my boss's way of documenting what was taking place, which in her mind was, I was not playing ball, as they like to say. And she just kept insisting that, oh, we just need to change your job description. This is gonna, this will solve the issue. And I said, very just matter of factly, I said, I'm sure this is gonna fix everything. And yes, I was being sarcastic, 100%. But at the time, I was really frustrated, because it was like, if I'm telling you, if I go to the hospital and I go in there because I broke my arm, I don't expect you to try to treat everything but the broken arm, because that's not what's wrong. My arm is broken. So my expectation is that you will address that problem. And the amount of gymnastics that was happening was ridiculous. But at the time, like I said, because I was caught off guard, first of all, because I thought this was a one-on-one with my supervisor. I didn't realize that HR was tagging along. And just fun fact, if you guys, I'm sure already know this, but if you're ever pulled into an impromptu meeting with HR, just be on your P's and Q's. It is not what you think it is. It is never a good thing. So that happened, and she just point blank told me that my job description was going to change. I said, okay. And I just left it alone, and I didn't think anything else of it. And the next thing I know is I have an unexpected meeting invite from my supervisor and their supervisor. And I already knew what was coming. And what was interesting to me was that the explanation was that the client was going in a different direction, and I didn't have the skill set for the direction they were going in. Now, this is the same skill set that the job description was going to be changed for, but I no longer had the skill set. And I thought, okay, no problem. Now, I wasn't tripping, and the reason I wasn't tripping, because I know, I'm like, okay, so I wasn't tripping because I already had something lined up. And this is what I mean when I say that you always need to have a backup plan, and a backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan. Don't let them catch you slipping at all. So it was annoying. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't a situation where I was panicking, because I don't allow myself to get into those situations anymore. I just don't. And I always got a way forward, because that is how God has taught me to move. You got to prepare for anything and everything. And so they told me that I would, they would be gracious enough to keep me on until they found my replacement. How nice, right? So you're telling me I don't have the skills, you're going in a different direction, but we're going to keep you around until we find a replacement for you. And I was like, you know what? That's fine. I really honestly wasn't even mad about it. It was what it was. And I think they were surprised that I took it in stride. And again, when you have a backup, when you know that that people are not going to catch you the way they think they're going to catch you, you don't get concerned with the foolishness, which honestly, if y'all haven't been paying attention to the news, is very apropos to what is happening in the streets right now. Very apropos. And as Black people, we have been here. Not only have we been here before, we have been here all times. This is always where we have been. And so it is interesting to see the level of not just outrage, but dismay at what is happening. And that's just not where I'm at. That is not where I'm at. And it's a little funny to me, and just a slight little detour. I had this conversation with my mom the other day because of everything that was happening, and she's actually out of the country. And we were just having a conversation talking about all of the foolishness that's going on in politics. Unless you've been living under a rock, you should probably know what's happening in the United States of America right now, or the divided states of America. Let's be clear. And that's America with a triple K, if you're wondering. But anyway, regardless of that, we were having a conversation. I was getting her caught up because, she's not really checking for the news over here. She's living her best life overseas. And so I was catching up with what has been going on since she's been away. And as she typically does, because she's very overprotective and always wanting to make sure that I have all of my stuff together, she asked me if I have my passport. Now, for those of you who may or may not know, I was not born in the States. I was born in Jamaica. And I've been in the States a really long time, but I only just got my citizenship in 2022. Yeah, I was really hanging on for dear life. And so she asked me if I had my passport. And I was like, no. And of course, because she is a mother, she launches into her worry about me not having my passport, and I got to get that going and be sure that I have it together when it comes to that because of all the stuff they're doing. And my response, my reaction, and she got a really good laugh out of this. I said, honestly, I'm good. And she was like, well, you just never know. You can get caught up. And I said, to be quite frank, good. I will gladly take a free trip back home and stay there. Not a problem. And that's where I'm at. Look, y'all, I have my papers, so don't trip. I am a citizen. I've got my driver's license. I've got my naturalization certificate. I've got my Social Security card. So I'm a bona fide citizen, but anything can happen, and I'm at peace with it. And if it comes down to that, then I could think of worse things that can happen than me being shipped off to one of the most beautiful islands on this planet. I will be living my best life. Like, I promise y'all, I'm not even tripping. I think the most I would do if they caught me and I didn't happen to be with my husband at the time, I'd be like, can I just go get my husband? Because I hear they'll ship you home with your loved one if they want to go with you. So that's where I'm at. And I say all that to say, and I'm not trying to be cynical or trying to downplay, because I know it is very real right now what is happening to those who do not have those protections in place. Not only those who haven't had the protection because they didn't come to this country by legal means, but to those who have had those protections stripped away. But as someone who has been Black all of her life, I have always been in danger of something, especially in this country. And yes, what is happening right now, it is devastating. It is abysmal. It is all of the things you could think of. It is despicable. But this is not the time to be running around like Chicken Little or acting like the sky is falling. This is not the time for that. This is the time to, yes, organize, find out what you can do, be proactive. Don't curl up in a ball and just be like, all hope is lost. But I'm also going to live my life. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's only so much you can do. And as Black people, we know what it is to struggle. We know what it is to be profiled. We know what it is to be followed in the store. We know what it is to work 10 times as hard to get a fraction of our counterparts. We know what it is to be passed over. We have lived here. This is our state of being. This is not new for us. It is new for a lot of people, though. So I know that the shock can be very harsh, and I know that it could be hard to grapple with. But for us, we've been here, and there's plenty of room, unfortunately. So welcome. And I hope that we all get through it together, but please don't feel despair is what I'm essentially trying to say. But I am also very cynical. I have a sometimes dark sense of humor, but at the end of the day, sometimes humor is the only thing that'll get you through. You gotta laugh to keep from crying, and then cry, and then laugh some more. So back to my point on my story time. They both had a look of surprise on their face when they told me that they were ending my contract and I didn't have any questions. I wish I could have taken a picture of the look on their face. Because I think that there's this expectation that when we are, quote unquote, beholden to corporate America or to those who are in positions of power, that we should be grateful, and not only grateful, but when things don't work out, we will be devastated. So there was almost this like expectation that I would either be asking to keep my job, or what can I do, or like let's negotiate. I haven't been there in a really long time, y'all. I really just have not. And so I was just like, okay. And, their boss was like, so do you have any questions? I'm like, no. And like I said, they both look stuck, but not my first rodeo. Surely won't be my last. So I kept it pushing. And then what happened after all of that is that after being told that I didn't have the skill set, and I talk about this in a couple of clips that I shared before, and being told that the client was going in a different direction, I was then asked, or expected, not even asked, I was told that I would be training my replacement. And yeah, the first thing in my mind is, how am I training my replacement when I'm not skilled enough to train them? You just told me I'm not qualified. Why would I train my replacement when I'm unqualified? So I asked a simple question. A simple question. And the question was, am I transitioning or am I training? That was my exact question. And my rationale is, if you're telling me that you're ending my contract by the end of the month, or however long it was going to take to find my replacement, if you're telling me that you're ending it because I didn't have the skill set, how do you then expect me to train the individual? And the response back was that one of the expectations is that you would be professional. They love throwing that word around. And I've never seen corporate America, especially white corporate America, weaponize the word professionalism in the way that it has been, especially against Black women. And that is exactly what I was told. One of the expectations is that you would conduct yourself in a professional manner. And I responded, why would that even be in question? And her response back was, well, I can hear it in your voice. Y'all see the difference? We say something, it's a threat. They say something, it's fine. So the double standard was real. And so I made the decision in that moment that I needed to protect myself. And so I sent a very clearly outlined email to some key individuals. And long story short, I made that my last day. And I say all that to say that the standards are so different. And then also, not only are their standards different, you can't expect or assume that every single Black peer or colleague that you work with has your best interest at heart. Not always. Sometimes they're looking out for themselves. And I'm not going to say wrong or right. People are going to do what they're going to do. As for me and my house, me, myself, I don't have time to be tearing other people down. I'm trying to win, and I want other people to win too. So if we're in the same workplace, I'm going to help you out as much as I can. If you need my help, I'm here to help because it's the right thing to do. There's no other reason. There's no ulterior motive. Like we should support each other, right? But not everyone's like that, and that's okay. And so it's important to recognize and acknowledge that. But that was my story time, y'all. Like I went from it took one other person that did not appreciate being called out while putting themselves in that situation, did not appreciate being called out, and so they decided to do something about it and to make my life difficult. And I decided that I'm just not in that place of my life. And it's important to note, because if you read my book, and if you haven't, Playing the Game While Black Women in Corporate America, go get you a copy of my book right on Amazon. And if you're not into Amazon because you're boycotting, 100% understand and support you. Check back on Black History Month. My book will be free at last. It will be available everywhere. It's going to be on Barnes & Noble. It's going to be on all of the places, and maybe coming to a local bookstore near you. Yes, it feels so appropriate that during Black History Month, my book will be free to everyone and everywhere. And when I say free, let me be clear. I'm not giving away the book. It will be free from the confines of Amazon, to be clear. Let me clarify. So if you're looking to support a sister while not kowtowing to the man, and in this case, it is Jeff Bezos and Amazon, I get it. Totally get it. Not a problem. I got you. I will make the announcement as soon as it's available everywhere else, because it takes a little bit of time, but based on what I saw, it should be about mid-February. So I will definitely make an announcement and let you all know when it is available everywhere. I'm hoping that it might not be by February, but I should have it available in like some local establishments. And I'm hoping to partner with a couple of local Black-owned businesses and bookstores. So stay tuned for that, because that is coming. And as I said before, the paperback, the physical copy, if you want to get your hands on a non-digital copy of my book, it will be available June 21st. Yes, 100% available June 21st for purchase, not for free. So yeah, that was essentially my story. And so, yes, this was the point I was trying to make earlier, and I just got myself a little sidetracked by ranting about the book and the Amazon of it all. So one of the things I talk about in my book is knowing, yes, it is good to be authentic and bring your authentic self. All of those things are good. And as you saw by the story, clearly I was not really shrinking or keeping my comments to myself, because had I done that, I'd still have said job. But when you have a cushion, meaning that you have GTFO money, and I'm going to leave it clean because my mother's probably going to listen to this at some point, and then I'll never hear the end of it. But when you have GTFO money, which is get the frack out or get the fudge out, when you have get the fudge out money, you can be more candid and be more forthcoming. And that's where I was. So you can pick and choose your battles. And that is why I keep to myself. Most of the consulting contracts that I have, I don't really have those conversations with people. Like, I don't really try to get to know them like that. I'm not rude, but I'm not at these places to make friends, because I'm not trying to be there much longer. 100% full disclosure. So when you have GTFO money, you can do that. Or when you have something already lined up, because you know better than to leave yourself without a safety net, you don't have to be trapped. And that's really one of the things that is super, super important. And I do talk about that in the book. Don't ever allow any job to keep you trapped because you don't have any other options. Like, that's a no-go. That's a no-go in 2025. We're not doing that anymore. get you something else, get you a side hustle, just get you something. And you're going to hear me talk about it a lot because that is how you get free. That is how you get out, and you don't have to wait 3 years, 5 years. You don't have to save up money because you got something lined up and you can just slide right on out, right on to the other thing. Yeah. You know how like people have side pieces? Get you a side piece for the job. That is a terrible example, but you know what I'm talking about. Get you a side job. There you go. Get your side job, not a side piece. Get your side job. Because there is, especially now, things are just way too uncertain, way too unstable. And it is really about making sure that you are financially protecting and securing yourself. Period, point blank. So yeah, that was a whole lot that we covered today. And that's all I had. So thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to make sure I covered the story because I did leave y'all hanging last week, and I wanted to make sure I closed the loop on that. But yeah, that was my story time. That's how one of the many instances where my mouth wrote a check that my butt could not cash, because that is typically how it works in corporate America. Yeah. So that's all I had. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Please come back next week. We're going to have some good stuff to talk about. Yeah. So come back here next week. Thank you for your support. Please like, share, and subscribe. Share it with a friend. Share with your friend that, you know, was just like me or is just like me, because she stays saying stuff that she just should not be saying, and then can't figure out why she got fired yet again. Or can't figure out why she on a PIP or whatever else in between, why her boss don't like her and whatever else, or him, one of the two. So yeah, share it. Sharing is caring. So do them a favor and tell them I sent you. You can put it on me. You can tell them it was me. It was my fault, and you won't have to take me to the blame. All right. So that's all I got. Check out some of my other episodes. This is episode 8. So there's plenty of content you can go check out. Go check out my YouTube page, Nicole S. Palmer. Check out my LinkedIn, Black Womaning in Corporate America. Check out my website, NicoleSPalmer.com. Plenty of places you can get some great content from. Please buy the book. Please support a sister. Trying to get out of here, trying to get out of corporate America once and for all in 2025. That is my countdown. I am on the clock. You can help me get out of there. You can help fund my escape. How beautiful and thoughtful and considerate that would be. I would do it for you in a heartbeat. Yeah. So thank you. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please hit me up. You can either send me a message here, send me a message on LinkedIn. You can also send an email to info@delnicmedia.com. D like David, E like elephant, L like Larry, NIC, first 3 letters of my first name, media.com. info@delnicmedia.com. All right, guys. Until next time, take care.